Okay, this is chapter 63 of The Night Singer. 63. Though Karina wasn't at her computer, Hannah still walked over there. Daniel was also elsewhere, and Hannah quickly scanned Karina's desk. She could see a diary, a notepad, a stress ball, and a mug full of pens, but no photographs. The only remotely personal items were the 2 potted plants. They were both well tended, and in what looked like hand-painted pots. Maybe it was an interest in gardening that had brought Karina and Maria together, but if so, where? A horticultural society felt more likely than some online forum. Perhaps Ingrid would know whether there was anything like that in the area. The sound of footsteps made her turn around, but it was only Eric. Hannah regretted having told him about the photograph. Ask Karina, that had been his solution. Or talk to Ove. Hannah walked back to her desk. She had no desire to call Karina and sent a message about the interview with Marcus Johansson instead. She then dialed Nadine's number. "You'll have to be quick," said Nadine. "I've got class." "Why didn't you tell us Joel was trans?" The silence that followed was so heavy that for a moment Hannah thought Nadine had hung up. "Hello? Who have you been talking to?" "Marcus Johansson. Or maybe I should say Tina?" Nadine was silent again. "What do you know about her?" asked Hannah. "I've never met her, but Joel said she was helping him." "Helping him with what?" "To feel better." "Were they in a relationship?" "I don't think so. I mean, I thought it was weird they were chatting. I'd never do it. But Joel swore she was cool." Hannah didn't speak. Sometimes that was the best way to get someone to talk. "I couldn't tell you about any of this," said Nadine. "At first we tried using a bunch of different girls' names, then different pronouns, but not even Joel knew for sure." This information could have helped the investigation. If only Nadine had told them right away, they would have reached this point much sooner. Not that it really mattered anymore. Hannah decided to drop it. "How would you describe Joel and Peter's relationship?" she asked. "Nah, screw it." "Pardon?" "That was to a classmate, not you. Screw my class." "Sorry, I didn't mean to. Meh, I don't feel like going anyway." "Why do you want to know about Petrie?" "Just answer the question." Joel often made fun of him, but I think he liked him, and he was jealous of Molly, of the fact that she had a real dad. Hannah's attempts to keep the conversation going failed, so she ended the call and dug out Petrie's mobile number. The sound of quick footsteps made her look up. Karina was holding out her phone to her. "What, you couldn't be bothered to call me?" "I went over to your desk, but you weren't there. I thought maybe you were busy." Behind Karina, Hannah could see Eric's watchful eyes. "Did you have any questions about anything I wrote?" asked Hannah. "You're not my boss, you know." Hannah stared at Karina. She had no idea how to deal with her anger. It all felt so unfair. From the corner of her eye, she saw Eric take a step forward and felt like hissing at him to stop poking his nose in. "I don't know how they can just let you waltz in like this," said Karina, "and shove the rest of us, who have been here for years, to one side, especially considering your background." Karina turned around, presumably to storm away, and almost walked straight into Eric. Hannah stared down at her desk. She could feel the redness she hated so much spreading across her cheeks again. She had to fight back. Hannah refused to let Eric deal with the situation for her. If there was one thing he was right about, it was this. She needed to talk to Karina, to make her understand that she couldn't behave like this. "Karina," said Eric. Right at that moment, Daniel stepped into the room, pausing just inside the doorway. Hannah forced herself to get up and walked over to Karina. "I'm not my dad," she said. Her voice was trembling, and she had to swallow before she could go on. "You know Esther's daughter, Maria, don't you?" "She's my cousin." Karina glared furiously at her for a moment before hurrying out of the room. Daniel watched her leave, then turned to Hannah as though he needed her approval. She nodded, and he followed Karina out. Hannah walked back to her desk and slumped into her chair. "You okay?" asked Eric. "Fine. At least you know now." "Yeah." Little by little, Hannah managed to compose herself. She was good at her job, and she wasn't going to let Karina take that away from her. If Karina insisted on being hostile, she would just have to talk to her again. Or if that didn't work, she would have to speak to Ove. Hannah dialed Petrie's number, and when he failed to pick up, she left a message telling him to call her back as soon as possible. She then took out the photographs from the rest area. She knew she would have to tell Rebecca what she had found out about Joel, that he was trans. Otherwise, there was a risk it would leak to the press first. Her phone rang, and Hannah found herself hoping it was Petrie, but it was Joel's friend Lena. "There's something I need to tell you." Hannah heard her swallow, but the girl didn't go on. "Okay," she said. "It was Fanny who sold the hash to Joel." "Thank you," said Hannah, "but we knew that already." Lena began to cry. Do you want to tell me why you're crying?" asked Hannah. What followed was an incoherent story about Lena having been given hash by Holt by Joel and going directly to Fanny when she wanted more. Fanny had said it was free, but then she had demanded money for it after all, and if Lena couldn't pay her back, Joel would have to. What if that's why Lena sobbed. We don't know who killed Joel yet, said Hannah, or why, but it's good that you've told us. Once they hung up, Hannah turned her attention back to the images. She realized she was going to have to approach them from a new angle and began by making a list of everyone who had been to the rest area. There were so many people she didn't recognize, and they all looked so ordinary. People from Guard B and the surrounding villages, parents, classmates, teachers. She studied their faces, searching for signs of guilt. Hannah spent a long time staring at the image of Tina. There was definitely guilt there, but it seemed to have been almost completely absorbed by grief. With a sigh, she gathered the images into a pile. That was when she saw him, a man who appeared in the photos from 2 separate days. He was around her age with blonde hair. In one image, his face seemed blank, and in another, it was more despairing. Hannah checked through the rest of the photographs again. None of the other faces appeared more than once. She spied the man in a third picture, or at least she thought it was him, only just visible at the edge of a group of teenagers. Hannah seemed to have inadvertently photographed him on 3 separate occasions, which was significant considering she had never stayed at the rest area particularly long. She stared down at the image in which he had a serious look on his face, but couldn't remember having seen him anywhere else. Hannah added the image to a folder along with a picture of Marcus Johansson and got up to tell Eric what she had found. She immediately changed her mind and grabbed the other photos too. She and Eric would have to pay Rebecca a visit and go through the images with her.